Chapter 1. You're such a naughty girl. Spoiled indeed. Cynthia shouted at her daughter, causing Nesta to burst into tears. This was the rhythm of their family life, scolding and sobbing, a cycle they had grown all too familiar with. I regret ever bearing you. You're mischievous, thick-headed, and malicious, Cynthia continued that morning. It was just a simple task. Get my handset from the table in my room, and you stayed upstairs for hours. You're good for nothing. She yelled, her frustration boiling over. Cynthia rushed downstairs, forgetting her phone, and handed Nesta the key to her room, expecting her to bring it quickly. But when Nesta searched for the phone, she couldn't find it where her mother had directed. Instead, she spent time looking in the wardrobe, dressing room, and even the bathroom. Just then, their neighbor, Ijeoma, whom she had been expecting, arrived. As Ijeoma exchanged pleasantries with Cynthia, her attention remained focused on the staircase, waiting for Nesta's return. Eventually, Nesta found the phone in the sink of the bathroom. She hurried downstairs and handed it to her mother. "Just give me the phone." Cynthia sighed, snatching it from Nesta's hands. "I've told you time and again that you're a pompous girl, egotistical, languid, and sluggish. You'll squander your life away," she voiced further in anger, looking fiercely and pointing at her. Ijeoma watched in disbelief, surprised at how harshly Cynthia berated her daughter for a mere delay. Climbing the stairs took her an hour. "I can't believe how Nesta is growing. The other day, I sent her to buy a loaf of bread, and she came back ages later with a tiny loaf. When I asked why it took so long, she said she couldn't find a bike for what should have been a short journey. And when I inquired why she didn't buy the bread I like, she claimed the sellers were out. Can you imagine that busy bread market? I'm fed up with this girl. Her defiance knows no bounds," she yelled. Ijeoma listened intently, while Nesta wept at her mother's harsh words. "Look at her, crying. Just crocodile tears. Never mind her," Cynthia scolded further. Ijeoma stepped forward to comfort Nesta, but the intensity of Cynthia's tirade made her hesitate. Though she was not comfortable with the words of her mother, she was quietly listening. She never knew how the entire setup began. Cook a bag of rice, and Nesta will gorge on it. Cook a bag of semolina, and she'll devour it. Buy a loaf of bread, and she'll binge. She's a glutton who overindulges in food and drink. Just the other day, she ate herself into a stupor and couldn't get up until dawn. The next morning, she was back at the pot waiting to stuff herself. I hate her for this, Cynthia continued, while Ijeoma observed, puzzled by the mother's public humiliation of her daughter. She imagined what type of a young girl Nesta was. On the other hand, she remembered that she was in her puberty age, just at merely adolescent age. She in turn wondered the type of mother that would not train her child, but make a public cajole of her bad manners. Nesta heard all that her mother narrated. She was downcast. She knew most of those were false, yet could not open up to a defense. Chapter 2. After the confrontation, Cynthia left the house with Ijeoma to visit a salon. Cynthia had a passion for beautifying herself, often spending the last savings in the house on cosmetics, plaiting her hair, painting her skin, and shinning her nails. Meanwhile, Ijeoma, a mother of 5, appreciated nature for giving her offspring as she desired. Cynthia, however, felt cheated by nature, having only conceived after 10 long years of marriage. Prior to the conception of her only daughter, family and friends had called her barren and even accused her of witchcraft. The birth of Nesta, her long-awaited child, brought her sorrow, as she was a female, and it was 15 years she never conceived. Her sad days increased when she met some women of her age who had grown up girls and boys. Cynthia feigned happiness as she moved out with Ijeoma. "Mummy is always hard on me. I don't understand why she curses and scolds me for every little mistake. Each moment is ogling and snubbing," Nesta lamented, sitting on the pavement. "I learned from Daddy that when I was small, she had a quarrel with him, and she had the effrontery to throw me to the floor out of anger. That's how I broke my finger," she reflected, glancing at her hand. "Her hard-heartedness is the reason peace eludes our family. It's not just me she harasses. Everyone suffers her malice. I can't fathom the cause of her bitterness," she bemoaned with tears. "Nessie," her father called softly, hearing her quiet sobs. He listened as her mother scolded and cursed, choosing not to intervene despite the harshness of her words. He recalled her warning him to stay out of her way. He understood well how mothers typically cherished their daughters, but in this case, it was a different ballgame. Each time he reflected on the moment that drove his wife to throw their only daughter to the floor after breastfeeding, he was filled with disbelief. From that day forward, he chose silence and acceptance, letting go of his own turmoil. "Daddy," she replied, her voice trembling. He wrapped his arms around her in a comforting embrace, fully aware of the tension that filled their home. He was careful to ensure Cynthia didn't catch him in that soothing act. "Forgive your mother. Something is troubling her. You must forgive her from the heart," he urged as Nesta cried. She longed to hear her parents call her Nessie, a name that made her feel cherished, but it was a rarity. Donatus understood that his wife's complex behavior stemmed from three main issues: the stigma of not conceiving after 10 years of marriage, the disappointment of having only a daughter, denying him inheritance, and postpartum depression. Since Nesta's birth 15 years ago, there had been no signs of another pregnancy, which further frustrated Cynthia. While he couldn't speak of her character before betrothal, he recognized that unresolved childhood grief, traumatic experiences, hormonal imbalances, and feelings of entrapment could contribute to her struggles. He also considered that some women might naturally exhibit wickedness. "I won't know if the bad attitude, annoyance, backbiting, anger, and animosity she developed was a contributing factor to her barrenness," he spoke to himself. He understood that psychosomatic factors could play a significant role in fertility issues, as chronic stress might disrupt the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. Anxiety and depression could lead to hormonal imbalance. Cynthia's insecurity intensified each time she interacted with Nesta, and Donatus often steered clear to avoid her volatile moods. She had scorned him enough. Hygioma, while supportive, never dared to challenge Cynthia's behavior. She either found her happiness in beautifying herself or in pressing her phone. Chapter 3. What are you doing there? Cynthia burst into the house, catching Nesta leaning on the dining table with her book. Tears welled in Nesta's eyes as she sighted her mother. As she was coming back from that short trip, she forgot to buy onions to prepare soup. She had to send her to purchase it. "Get up, you lazy girl. Hurry to Ngozi's shop and fetch me some onions. Spare me your indolence." Cynthia barked her again, this time with anger. As she scolded, she rose languorously with a little fatigue. In anger, she threw the Naira note on the floor, and with scorn on her lips, her mum pulled the door and entered her room. Donatus and Cynthia lived in a well-constructed duplex in Christ the King Estate at Ogbor Hill, Enugu State. Originally from Umuede, they had moved to the estate in search of a better life. Then, estate dwellers sought for secured life as each person enclosed his property in a fence. Donatus often lamented how Cynthia's toxic behavior had ruined their dreams of peace in that estate. As Nesta opened the gate, she spotted Chinedu, a storekeeper across the street. "There goes Nesta, the naughty girl," he remarked to his mother, who sat beside him. Although she heard him, Nesta pretended not to. "She's always lazy and never runs errands," Chinedu continued, pointing at her. "She must have been spoiled by her mother," Chinedu's mother responded. Cynthia often aired their family's dirty laundry to anyone willing to listen, creating a negative reputation for Nesta in their new neighborhood. "That girl only knows how to eat. She can't even wash her own clothes. She's so pampered that she can't eat unless fed. She may look strong, but she's weak," the gossip spread, and Nesta, feeling the weight of scorn, remained silent as the hurtful comments reached her ears. "You want some onions?" Ngozi, the onion seller, asked as Nesta approached her shop. "Yes, how much are they?" Nesta replied. "You don't look happy. Why don't you obey your parents and listen to their advice?" Ngozi suggested. "Just how do you sell them?" Nesta asked again, hoping to divert her attention. "Thinking you can snub me like you do your mother? You're Nesta, the naughty girl everyone knows. Go home and reflect on your behavior," Ngozi added. Nesta was mute as she never knew her. It was just a few months they inhabited the estate. Nesta, who had recently moved to the estate and struggled with low self-esteem, felt overwhelmed. "Will I suffer public disgrace as I did in our last neighborhood?" she wondered as she left the shop, her heart heavy with sadness. On her way home, Many who did not have access to her pointed as they spoke about her. Each person spoke from the gossip heard from Cynthia. Although she bought the onions, she returned home in tears. Why is my mother always talking about me? Why must she announce my faults and that of other family members to everyone? She thought, feeling the unfairness of her situation. She dropped the onions in the kitchen and retreated to her room. Chapter 4. It was my mother's job to buy the onions, but she forgot. I went to get them for her, yet I'm still scolded. Good for nothing, girl, she said. Nesta recalled her mother's taunts as she dropped the onions in the kitchen. Unable to rest, she tossed and turned on her bed. Distressed, she got up and began reorganizing the papers scattered on her desk. She stumbled upon a novel titled Plight of a Toxic Marriage, Simbi and Dele. The story flashed in her memory, resonating with her own life. Dele's words echoed, "My ex-wife wanted me dead. How can you fight to keep someone who doesn't want you alive? My wife was a husband beater. I mean, she used to beat me every day. It was like she was the man and I was the woman. I suffered a lot of domestic abuse at her hands. She didn't show me that domineering character before we got married. She was so loving and charming. Just 1 year, she became a monster." As she read on, she learned how Simbi had manipulated Dele, leading to his bankruptcy, professional downfall, and personal despair. When Simbi divorced him, she sold their property and embraced a lavish lifestyle. "This is exactly the scene that plays out in my house," she said, still clutching the paper. The story replayed vividly in her mind. When they first moved in together, Della purchased most of the family property in Simbi's name. Then they basked in an ocean of love. However, as Simbi began exhibiting increasingly complex behaviors, both she and Dale grew uncomfortable. The turmoil led to Simbi's barrenness, which in turn frustrated Dale, causing him to struggle in his career as a barrister. Amidst this turmoil, Simbi filed for divorce with Barrister Jane, aiming to abscond with all the property that was in her name. Dele, on the other hand, sought the divorce as a means to rehabilitate himself. During the proceedings, Barrister Jane found herself drawn to Dele. At 40, she was still single and desperate for companionship. Moreover, marrying Dele, a constitutional lawyer, would significantly enhance her career. Simbi secured the divorce, seized all of Dele's property, and indulged in an extravagant lifestyle. However, as her cash reserves dwindled, she began selling off their assets. Barrister Jane, under a different name, purchased the property with the sole intention them to deal. Meanwhile, Simbi continued to live lavishly after each sale. Simbi falsely accused Dele in the court that he used to beat her. Dale desired a divorce, being fed up with her. Simbi, envisioning a future as a wealthy divorcee, celebrated her freedom. Barrister Jane purchased all of Dale's property from her and married him, eventually transferring all the property back to him. They made a good husband and wife. Simbi, broke and having nothing more to sell, returned to cling to Dale, only to discover he had married Barrister Jane. Furious, she branded her a husband snatcher. "What a world," she muttered to herself, holding the storybook. "This is exactly what plays out in my house," she thought, still holding the book which they used in their basic certificate education examination. The narrative mirrored her family life, where love had soured into something toxic. "As soon as I enter the boarding house, I will never come back to this house again," she consoled herself in desperation. "Should I advise my father to leave my mother for another woman?" she pondered, feeling trapped. Nesta realized she was living in a turbulent family environment, constantly on edge, anticipating further conflict. She felt unsafe, hyper-aware of the many potential triggers around her. She hung on that reading table and later shifted to her bed and was detached from everyone in the house. Locking herself in her room, she prayed her mother would forget her. Tears flowed as she struggled to understand her family life. "Come and eat your food," Agatha called from the kitchen. As she wrapped up her junior secondary studies, Nesta was set to become a boarder for her senior secondary. Her father desired her a boarder, and her mother preferred her out of sight. To help with the household chores, Agatha, who was a niece to Cynthia, had come to assist while she returned to school. Reluctant to respond, she laid on her bed, unaware that her mother was waiting. "Where is the food eater? Hurry up, come and eat your food. That's the only thing you know how to do. Hurry up fast. Just eat. Go and sleep. That's where you specialize. Her mummy banged into her room and shouted at her as she lay on the bed. Chapter 5. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Each new day brought Nesta a mix of happiness and anxiety as she anticipated her departure for boarding school. Her resolve never to return home on gaining that freedom was firm. "Daddy, you've never shown me my real mother. I doubt if Mum is truly my mother," she said, looking directly into Donatus' eyes during dinner. She felt at home with him because Cynthia was away at the salon. "Cynthia is your real mother, I swear." "Her attitude changed drastically since we married," he replied, sensing her struggle with the idea of toxic relationships that could develop in marriages. That is any kind of behavior that is capable of causing relationship injury or damage leading to divorce and remarriage or even death. Both couples can become a source of toxin in their union, or one person can become. He went on to explain toxic relationship as if he knew what was in her mind. Toxic relationships are like poison, causing serious injury and emotional harm. The effect could result in death, he explained. Instead of joy, a toxic relationship brings sadness, anger, and fear. It can shift your mental health and self-esteem. Detrimental in such a relationship is an unbridled tongue of the wife, lack of cooperation between husband and wife, vent or suppressed anger. He stopped. While he hinted the cause, he did not want to be particular. Nesta never knew that the factors surrounding her birth were the main cause of the toxin that entered the family. He hid it from her, as it would cause her further psychological harm. As much as he knew, her bitterness stemmed from her struggles with fertility and feelings of inadequacy. From what she observed in her family, her mother was a skilled beautician, and her father, Donatus, was a kind and gentle man who deeply cared for his family. He purchased a plot of land in Christ the King's estate, where he built and furnished a duplex to his liking. Before marrying Cynthia, he had lived as a tenant in Umuoji. Once the house was completed in the estate, they relocated there. Donatus fondly remembered that among the many young ladies who pursued him for marriage, Cynthia stood out as the best. He proposed and married her. The issue of giving birth, which was to her disfavor, led her to toxic behavior. Despite this, Donatus rarely expressed his concerns. Cynthia interpreted his silence as annoyance and disappointment, which fueled her negative actions. "Nessie, soon you'll be off to school. I believe this new environment will give you a fresh start. Focus on your education and forget the chaos at home. I'll provide for you," he assured her, and she felt a flicker of hope. "Be rest assured I have provided all your needs for," he began again. Words were still on his mouth when Cynthia burst through the door, her anger palpable. He quickly slipped away, knowing the storm that was about to unfold. "Where is that lazy girl? Why is this house in a mess? You can't even clean up the house. You can't carry out the plate you used to eat. Pig," she shouted at her. Chapter 6. Where is Nesta Okonkwo? Little one, oh so small, stubborn and naughty after all. You test the limits, push and play, refusing to listen, every single day. Cynthia cajoled, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I am here," Nesta replied, fear coursing through her veins. After finishing their supper, she marched straight to Nesta's room, holding her ear as she delivered the message. "Get ready to lug your heavy bags into the car. Citadel College, Oduma, is resuming tomorrow for the new academic year. You will be a boarder, living at the school. Be ready by 8 a.m. I'll drive you there. While others strive for education, you'll excel at being the worst student and the most ill-behaved girl. You need to be disciplined by the school authorities and their strict schedules," Cynthia shouted at her that night, her tone sharp and demanding. Nesta spent the night in agony and tears. But every time she remembered her father's gentle reassurances, her spirits lifted. She was grateful that he provided for their family, hopeful he would ensure her school experience wouldn't be a struggle. The next morning, Agatha helped her pack her luggage into the car. As she looked up at the steering wheel, dread washed over her. Her mother was driving. Citadel College, Oduma, located in the coal city of Enugu, was a 45-minute drive away. As they set off at 8 a.m., Cynthia launched into a tirade of advice and admonitions. "Nesta, if you don't do well in school, you'll end up a street beggar," she declared, gesturing to a group of beggars lining the road. "Look at those dropouts. You might join them if you mess up at school, she added, pointing at hawkers selling oranges and groundnuts. Some girls go to school and come back with certificates, but others return pregnant. I hope you won't be one of the latter, she warned. Mummy, why all this bad luck and negativity? Have I misbehaved before? Nesta feigned concern in her reply. You foolish girl. How dare you question me? Cynthia retorted sharply. Nesta fell silent, feeling the weight of her mother's words. Mischief maker, little ball of fire, stubborn and naughty, heart's desire. You run and you jump, and you shout with glee, refusing to listen, as bright as can be. Your tiny hands, clenched in defiance, strong, your eyes sparkle bright with a will gone wrong. You test and you try, with a grin so wide, a naughty little one, gliding with pride. Cynthia hummed a mocking poem as they continued their journey, taunting her all the way. Chapter 7. Upon arriving at the school, she registered Nesta and collected her uniforms. Cynthia then hurried to the office of the teacher in charge of discipline. Spotting her, she dragged Nesta forward. Please, Auntie Victoria, help me train my daughter. She is so naughty, gluttonous and lazy. All she does is watch TV and movies on her phone. I'm at my wit's end. During the long vacation, it was nothing but defiance and unruly behavior. She hasn't opened a book to study. I brought her here for you to teach her how to be responsible. I'm leaving her in your care, she rattled on. Mummy, we'll train her. You can count on that, Victoria replied, accepting a tip from Cynthia. So, she believes everything my mother says about me? She just swallows it all hook, line, and sinker, Nesta thought, feeling a mix of frustration and sadness. A loud sigh from her mother echoed in her ears as she dragged her out of the office. I've paid all your fees and registered you. Here are your receipts, registration code, and books. If you want to study, fine. If not, go on wallowing in your disobedience and sloth, Cynthia snapped, before getting into her car and driving off. Nesta, your mother says you're very naughty, so I will be keeping a close eye on you. I desire to create in you a better person. For every offense, noise-making, skipping exercises, or being late, you'll receive strokes of cane. My eyes are always on you, Victoria said, her tone stern. Among all the students, only Nesta seemed to face severe punishment. Joy, you're a good student. Gloria, you're doing well. You're free to go. But Nesta, you're a naughty girl. 6 lashes for you. After particularly busy class sessions, while others settled in for a siesta, Victoria announced, Nesta, no siesta for you. You're in for punishment. Even when an unknown student caused a disturbance, Nesta was often blamed and punished. Her low self-esteem and timidity prevented her from standing up for herself. On one occasion, as she hurried in from the library with a classmate, Victoria spotted them and declared with a frown, Nesta, you're leading this girl into regular tardiness. Yet she knew that there were still a few minutes left for recreation. Regularly, Nesta felt depressed. To her, this was the norm. Both at home and in school, gloom seemed inevitable. In her mind, it was just how life was. Amidst her depression, she met Yvonne, a cheerful classmate who radiated joy. Yvonne was academically gifted, often boasting about her extensive reading in the library and confidently speaking at school assemblies. In contrast, Nesta was consumed by anxiety and self-doubt. A heart once full of promises and light, now clouded by choices, day and night. Gluttony's grip, a heavy chain, weighs down your soul with constant strain. Slothful days blend in a haze, lazy moments lost in an endless daze. Stubborn reigns, a stubborn might, refusing to bend or shine with new light. But still, a spark within you gleams, a chance for change, a new path's beams. Will you arise and shake off the night, or let shadows consume your light? She recanted her mum's poem in the course of taunting her. Nesta withdrew from her peers. The trauma at home had stifled her ability to form friendships. She was trapped in mistrust, fear of rejection, and hypervigilance among the students. That isolation contributed to her low self-esteem, making her avoid social activities and groups. She struggled with managing her emotions and faced difficulties concentrating in class. Teachers noticed her declining focus and memory, leading to poor academic performance. Homework, time management, and test preparation became daunting tasks. Anxiety and depression from her traumatic background caused her to withdraw further, leaving her absent-minded and inattentive in classes. Each encounter with Victoria exacerbated her feelings of defiance and distrust. She feared being vulnerable around her, and as a result, she often felt overlooked by her teachers. Her class teacher noticed these and at all such times postponed attention for her. Chapter 8. You don't look happy most of the time. What's wrong? I saw you hiding in a corner of the refectory, crying while others had left after meals. Your hands were shaking while writing in class, and you seemed so withdrawn. Is something bothering you? Yvonne inquired one day after a particularly harsh encounter with Victoria. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. The school says I haven't paid my fees, so they punished me. I'm trying to signal my parents for the money. She lied, feeling unsafe and reluctant to open up. She knew that some students could be tigress or gossips, especially as it was a boarding school. Yvonne, a fellow first-year student, saw the potential in Nesta and decided to befriend her. I must befriend her and discover what is wrong with her. Thereby, I will assist her, she spoke to herself. She dedicated more time to her friend, ensuring they spent quality moments together. During their recreational time, they often went for strolls. At times, they would study in the library, collaborating on class assignments. Other occasions found them at the school canteen, where they enjoyed each other's company over Fanta, Coke, and meat pies. However, Yvonne soon realized how closed off Nesta was. During a visit to her dormitory, she found Nesta crying and unresponsive to her questions. Over time, she learned that Nesta had no friends and had faced harsh treatment from Victoria. In her corner in the dormitory, she had enough provisions and edibles, which led her to understand that her dad never allowed her a lack. It was then that she discovered that she told her lies concerning the non-payment of her school fees. Nesta, where do you come from? Yvonne asked. I don't know. All I know is we live in Christ the King Estate at Ogbor Hill, she replied. My parents live in New Haven's estate, Ogbor Valley, Yvonne responded. The two estates were separated by a hill and road, one perched above the other. As she was a fellow student, she could not confront Victoria. She planned to talk to her parents, who could talk to the school counselor and the disciplinary committee. By the next visiting day, Yvonne's parents arrived with food and treats. Accompanied by Nesta, Yvonne eagerly welcomed them. Mummy dearest, Yvonne exclaimed, enveloping her mother in a warm embrace. Mummy, my world, she whispered into her ears. Mummy, my world, she whispered into her ears. Yvi the Great, my baby, I love you so much, her mother cooed, caressing her face and hair. Nesta watched, envious of their bond. Daddy, Yvi cried, hugging her father. Daddy, your baby loves you. Yvi, my pet, he replied, equally affectionate. Nesta was lost in thought, wondering if such warmth was real. Is she your friend? Both parents asked, noticing her standing apart. She's a friend and classmate, Yvonne replied, nodding. Nesta felt a flicker of happiness at that acknowledgement. As they chatted, Yvonne would sometimes sit on her mother's lap or lean against her father. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and warmth, leaving Nesta in awe of their familial connection. Chapter 9. So parents can be friendly with their daughters? Could embrace them lovingly? Or was this all a dream? Nesta pondered that night after witnessing their interaction. You have such loving parents, Yvonne. It's truly admirable, Nesta said at daybreak, reflecting on how rare such affection was in her own life. Yvonne, always eager to assist, took notes and was ready to help her friend. During the long vacation, she traveled home with Yvonne's family. Living nearby, she was fortunate to receive their kindness. Upon reaching their home, Yvonne and her mother headed to the kitchen to prepare meals aimed at a brief get-together in Yvonne's honor. Nesta was surprised to see Yvonne cooking alongside her mother, who taught her the ropes. As soon as the food was ready, they sat down to eat. Yvonne began recounting lessons on table etiquette, feminine manners, and gentle advice from her mother. How was school? Yvonne's mother asked. I hope you're keeping up with simplification in mathematics, which I taught you, she asked further. Nesta discovered that mummies could coach their daughters as they studied. She was mute, waiting for her reply. Mummy, we're learning simultaneous equations now, and I'm getting good at linear and quadratic equations using graphs. Yvonne replied confidently, narrating to her mum that she was advanced in mathematics. That's my girl. I trust you, her mother beamed. Nesta marveled at how parents could invest time in teaching 11. Their children. Subsequently, she vividly recalled the 4 types of quotients: intelligence, emotional, social, and adversity. Intelligence measures one's ability to comprehend and solve mathematical problems, as well as to memorize and recall lessons. Emotional quotient involves maintaining peace with others, being punctual, responsible, honest, respectful of boundaries, humble, and genuine. Social quotient focuses on building and sustaining a network of friends over time. Adversity quotient is about navigating life's challenges and emerging from them without losing one's composure. These concepts, along with many other lessons she had read on their walls, flooded her mind. "I see your secrets to success in school," Nesta confided in Yvonne. "Your family has everything it takes to help children achieve greatness, maturity, and confidence in facing life's challenges," she voiced out with conviction. She felt a wave of fear and sadness as she reflected on her own family dynamics. She understood the profound impact of love, joy, and cooperation on children raised in such environments. They excelled academically, developed curiosity and a passion for learning, and honed critical thinking and problem-solving skills. They enjoyed higher self-esteem, positive body image, self-acceptance, resilience, and stress management. On the other hand, were stronger social skills and relationships, effective communication and conflict resolution, empathy and compassion for others, and healthy boundaries and assertiveness. Don't worry about your home. I promise to support you at school. If your home doesn't provide a conducive environment for studying and growing, think of school as your second home, Yvonne reassured her. Meanwhile, Victoria had been implementing strategies to isolate Nesta, blocking her from forming connections with her classmates. Anxiety had become a constant companion due to her home life. She understood vividly that if the catalyst is present in the substances, a chemical reaction must continuously take place. With the role of Victoria, she felt unsafe in the school. In their second year at Citadel College, Yvonne and Nesta grew closer. They studied together, often found revising lessons in a quiet corner of the school. "Nessie, we need to hit the books. Let's aim to top the class this time," Yvonne encouraged, using the affectionate nickname that always lifted Nesta's spirits. As Yvonne shared her discoveries with her parents, they equipped her with all the necessary support to assist her overcome the challenges. She proved she could support and assist Nesta. With Yvonne's encouragement, Nesta began to excel in school, emerging as a prominent figure in her class. She decided to run for class prefect, while Yvonne aimed for the position of school general prefect. By the end of the first term, Nesta had secured 5th place overall, while Yvonne maintained her usual first position. "Your results are proof you've resorted to exam malpractice. You're a dunce, an illiterate. You should be at the bottom of the class," her mother's harsh words echoed in her mind when she shared her grades. "Your daughter is in a bad gang at school. That's the secret behind her marks. Yvonne is the ringleader," Victoria reported to Nesta's mother, providing ample evidence to taunt her daughter. Few teachers in her gang up sent that same message to Nesta's mother. "Let's report this to Principal Catherine. She needs to know the falsehoods your mother and Auntie Victoria are spreading about you," Yvonne suggested one morning, reflecting her parents' advice to address the situation with authority. The next day, they attempted to meet with the principal but couldn't gain access. In the meantime, Victoria completed her tenure and was transferred to another school outside Enugu. Yvonne's friendship transformed Nesta's fortunes at school. She became more intelligent, cheerful, and actively engaged in school activities. Her popularity soared after she delivered a powerful speech in the school assembly about the dangers of poor self-esteem. Recognizing her potential, her classmates elected her as the deputy class prefect, while Yvonne was chosen as the general prefect of the entire school. "Your daughter is running for general prefect," Victoria messaged Nesta's mother, failing to mention that she was no longer a staff member. Cynthia was displeased with the news and wished misfortune upon her daughter. Unfortunately, her low self-esteem led to repeated failures and rejection. The reports against her claimed she never smiled, always reserved, and appeared lonely. She sent in another message. Each time, Cynthia gleefully responded with a cash token. In reality, Victoria was oblivious to the fact that Nesta was vying for the class prefect position. She mistakenly believed Nesta was aiming for the general prefect role instead. Additionally, she was unaware that Yvonne held the title of general prefect. Nesta secured a prestigious position driven by her ambition, illustrating how damaging gossip can be. Chapter 12. Girls with low self-esteem cannot contest for the post of general prefect in such a big school. They would fail. I love how you were disgraced out of the contest. Girls with low intelligence can't aspire to such exalted positions. They would be rejected. You've been engaging in exam malpractice since you started this school. Do you think you can succeed with cheating? Each night, her mother taunted her mercilessly at the dining table. Nesta, the rejected girl. Nesta, the abandoned. Nesta, the naughty girl. Her mother called out that particular night. The school was facing financial challenges, requiring all boarders to return home for 2 weeks until the situation was resolved. Each day as Nesta returned from school, she felt the weight of tension in the house. Donatus was fidgety, and Nesta was consumed by trauma. Cynthia, as well, was restless. The burden of worry hung heavy over them all. Love had vanished from their home. As the tension peaked, Nesta found herself relying on sedatives and depressants, while her father's blood pressure soared to 171/100. He frequently checked it. Anxiety etched on his face. Meanwhile, Cynthia suffered from relentless migraines that wouldn't subside. The family's collective stress resulted in ongoing health issues. Cynthia understood well that irritability arises from emotional stress, anxiety, sadness, anger, conflict, and depression. That night, Cynthia had a vivid nightmare. She dreamt that they were all dressed in mourning clothes: Nesta, Agatha, Donatus, and herself. The dream was filled with loud cries and tears. In her dream, the principal of Citadel College summoned all the teaching and non-teaching staff. They sat in pairs in an assembly hall, murmuring quietly as they awaited her arrival. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen," the principal began as she entered. All eyes were fixed on her. "I'm sure you know why I've called this emergency meeting. However, for those who don't, I have some tragic news. This morning, I confirmed a rumor that has been circulating. We lost one of our students. Nesta died last night. If you saw her yesterday afternoon during our meeting with the SS2 prefects, that was the last time anyone saw her alive." A wave of groans and weeping filled the hall as staff members broke down in tears, some having already sensed the tragedy before the announcement. "What happened to Nesta?" a teacher asked, concerned. She was aware of Nesta's strong position in school, especially in her second year. "Unfortunately, Nesta committed suicide in her room last night. Her mother found her dead in bed when she woke up," the principal said, overwhelmed with emotion. She had to pause, wiping her tears as she buried her face in her handkerchief, prompting more sobs among the staff. Nesta left a letter for her mother, which either fell to the floor or was held in her hands when she passed. In it, she expressed gratitude to her parents for their care and acknowledged that they worked hard to ensure she was enrolled in our school and lacked nothing. She paused for a breath. "Why then did she take her life?" her form teacher asked, still in disbelief. "The answer lies in why I called you here today," the principal continued, standing tall. "We all failed Nesta." After expressing her gratitude, she revealed the reasons behind her tragic decision. She struggled with low self-esteem and prejudice throughout her life, and yesterday, she simply couldn't bear it any longer. One of you informed Nesta's mother that she was meant to be the general prefect, but was passed over for Yvonne because Yvonne smiles while Nesta has a stony expression. That gave her mother joy and provided more ammunition to taunt her daughter. She wept again. "I will do everything in my power to find out who said that to Nesta's mother." Every day, her mother reminded her of her supposed failures. Each time she came home, she was filled with resentment. When Nesta got home yesterday, her mother asked about Yvonne, and Nesta simply said, "Mum, why don't you ever tell me that you love me? Am I not human?" Instead of softening her approach, her mother hurled insults at her, lamenting how hard she worked to provide the best for Nesta. Yet all Nesta could do was disappoint her. She went to bed without eating. Fatefully, there was a bottle of deadly substance in their house. No one knew when Nesta got up that night, took the bottle, and consumed its contents. She ended her letter with, "Mum, I love you, and I've always told you so, even though I can't say whether you love me. You can give all your love to cheerful Yvonne, but please don't abandon my daddy to fate as you abandoned me." That morning, her mother kept shouting, Nesta, I love you. Look at me. I said I love you. I fear they might have taken her mother to a doctor, as it seemed she had lost her mind, she concluded. Cynthia awoke from her nightmare, tears streaming down her face. Thank God it was just a dream. My only hope in this life. God bless my only child, she prayed fervently, clutching her blanket. Chapter 13. Baby, you will not die. You will live. Cynthia burst into Nesta's room, raising her voice in prayer. Nessie, my baby, you are destined for greatness. You will live long and surpass all your peers, she continued fervently. Nesta opened her eyes, unsure if she was dreaming. Mummy, she shouted, her voice filled with surprise and relief. Yes, my beloved daughter. Yes, my darling. Yes, my heart. I love you, my baby, Cynthia replied, lifting Nesta from her bed and planting kisses on her forehead, cheeks, and stomach. She then carried her to Daddy's room. As she banged on the door, Donatus woke up, startled. It was 5 a.m., and he felt a wave of tension wash over him. I am in a serious trouble. Can I escape this time? He wondered, haunted by memories of loneliness and toxic exchanges. He took a deep breath to calm himself. Looking up, he saw her carrying Nesta, a sight he had never noticed before. This only deepened his confusion. It had been almost a year since she entered his bedroom or spoke kind words to him. Daddy, daddy, she called out. My love, you are mine for eternity. She embraced Nesta and then wrapped her arms around Donatus. Forgive Mummy for her past mistakes, she whispered to Nesta. Forgive your wife for her shortcomings, she said softly to Donatus. After this heartfelt exchange, she led the family in morning prayers. Lord, bless my husband Donatus. Keep him safe and prosperous. Grant him journey mercies, she prayed earnestly. Turning to Nesta, she continued, Thank you for my daughter. She is a precious gift to our family. Bless her with a bright future and the zeal to succeed. Her prayers flowed freely, sometimes bursting into songs of praise and other times kneeling in tears. Nesta marveled at her mother's ability to pray. Mummy has such gracious words, she thought. Donatus, knowing her from the start, was not surprised. After the prayer, Cynthia entered the kitchen to prepare breakfast and helped Nesta get ready for school. By 7:10 a.m., they were on their way to Citadel College, filled with laughter and chatter. Baby, be a good girl. Mummy loves you. She hugged Nesta and kissed her. Darling, be a good gal. Daddy loves you, Donatus added, lifting her for a kiss on the cheek. At that moment, Yvonne stood on the assembly ground, observing the scene. Although Donatus and Cynthia didn't recognize her, she understood the significance of the moment. That's the best brain in this school. A truly brilliant mind, Yvonne thought, smiling to herself. Mummy, Daddy, thank you, I'm so grateful, Nesta responded with a bright smile as she hurried her food to the hostel and joined the assembly. In the third term of her second year, she secured second place in her class, graduating with flying colors. As the top student in the sciences, she won the Enugu State Governor's Cup for science students and earned a scholarship to further her education. When her parents came to pick her up on the last day of school, she discovered that her mother was pregnant with a baby boy. A smile spread across her face. Happiness has truly opened the doors of blessing in my family, she thought. Donatus and Cynthia, once thin and weary, now looked robust and full of life. She felt a special joy knowing that after years of waiting, they were finally blessed with a growing family. At her graduation ceremony from the University of Nigeria, Suka, UNN, she reflected, Daddy has a testimony to give. Mummy has a testimony to give. I have a testimony to give. My younger brother Tobias has a testimony to give. Standing between her parents and with Tobias in front of her, she felt an overwhelming sense of pride as she concluded her valedictory speech. The school presented her with two remarkable options, a teaching position or a scholarship to pursue her studies at Cambridge, London.